Hello, my name is Keren Dalyot, and today I'm going to talk about our study that examined commenting patterns to female and male scientists on a popular science Facebook page. In an opinion piece published in the Wall Street Journal on December, Joseph Epstein calls out to Dr. Jill Biden to stop using her doctor title, and he writes, "Any chance you might drop the doctor before your name? Dr. Jill Biden sounds and feels fraudulent, not to say a touch comic." He continued to write that Dr. Jill Biden should be content as just being First Lady Jill Biden. This piece instigated a flood of reactions, especially on Twitter, with intensive backlash regarding the patronizing tone of the op-ed, and with claims that this would never have been written about a man. This is exactly the questions we asked ourselves in this study. It seems that this op-ed really struck a chord, reminding us that despite progress, belittling women in academia is still out there, and also demonstrated the power of social media to respond. Epstein's attitude demonstrates a current approach to women in social media and in society, mansplaining, a certain patronizing form of communication directed at women by men. And this phenomena is even more pronounced in fields that are predominantly male, such as in the technology industry and science as well. The story I just told you did not instigate our study, rather it helps us tell our story. Our research was actually prompted by an interesting study investigating responses to science YouTube videos. When we read the study and discovered that female scientists received more hostile comments as well as more sexist comments about their appearance, we started wondering whether this is a pattern for female science communicators or whether it is a feature of the platform YouTube. Thus, we were inspired to look at comments to Facebook posts that don't contain a picture of the author, just a name. At the same time, a female science communicator in Israel reached out to us to explore potential collaboration. It turned out that this science communicator, Dr. Ella Lachman, volunteers with Israel's leading popular science Facebook page and was also excited about finding out whether female writers on their page received different comments than male writers. Although in recent years, not to say decades, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of women who study and work in STEM fields, progress is still insufficient. And if we look at PISA test results, they predict that 1 of 3 girls should successfully complete a STEM degree. But the reality is that in most countries, the percentage of women graduating in these fields is much lower. So where are these women? To better understand the social context of female scientists, our theoretical framework draws on literature from several fields, looking at gender aspects of STEM in society in general and in social media in particular. Data from around the world suggests that there are gaps within STEM fields and between countries, but overall, women are still not equally represented in many STEM fields. Numerous studies have documented these gaps. These include data published by the NSF and other relevant organizations and academic institutions. There are also many studies conducted to explain these gaps and offer strategies for increasing the number of women in STEM. Although gender inequality in STEM careers is not attributable to just one cause, gender stereotypes in society play a critical role. In fact, gender schemes about the meaning of being a man or a woman are shaped and reshaped from childhood, and these in turn contribute to public perceptions about women in science. Gender stereotypes prescribe how women should behave and what academic careers they should pursue. And these schemes affect how people interact with each other and what they expect from others based on their gender. In the context of STEM, gender schemes encourage men to enter the field, while women are more likely to say that these are not suitable areas for them. Gender stereotypes permeate many social spheres, and the framing of science in the media has played an important role in shaping the image of scientists and the extent to which the public appreciates the ability of female scientists. And because social networks are becoming one of the main agents that mediate science to the public, understanding gendered messages is becoming crucial. Recent studies on female scientists in social media have found, for example, that on Instagram, female scientists have fewer followers on average than male scientists. And of the 50 most followed scientists on Twitter, only 4 are women. This low representation contributes to the existing stereotype that associates science with men much more than with women. So back to a study. As I mentioned, we were inspired by Amarsekara and Grant's study, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, analyzing gendered comments to science YouTube videos. But our study analyzes comments submitted to textual posts authored by female versus male scientists on this popular science Facebook page in Hebrew. We partnered with Little Big Science, a Facebook page where scientific posts are published daily by a team of volunteer scientists. Our research questions were whether there are differences in the type of comments female and male authors receive, and whether disguising the gender of the author by swapping names maintains these differences. The context of our study is Israel, where the status of women in academia and the sciences is similar to the situation in other OECD countries. This is just an example of one piece of data. Numerous additional data exist. In regards to social media, Facebook is the most prominent social network in Israel, and almost 90% of internet users in Israel use Facebook. This data makes Israel a productive arena for research and public engagement with science on Facebook. Let me now discuss our methodology. Our research is comprised of two consecutive and related studies. Study 1 included analysis of the differences between comments submitted to posts authored and published by female versus male scientists on Little Big Science Facebook page. In study 2, we employed a quasi-experimental design using gender swapping of the authors to examine whether the differences observed in study 1 were related to gender rather than to author styles. The study design included 4 stages that were the same for both studies: selecting posts, extracting comments, and then coding the posts and the comments. 2 codebooks were developed, one for the posts and one for the comments. Posts were coded to control for post characteristics so that we could determine whether the gender of the writer had a real influence. Despite the similarity in overall design, study 2 was slightly different. First, because of the gender swapping. Each post analyzed in this study was authored by one gender and published by the other. So in some posts, there was a female author, but it was published in Facebook under a male author, and vice versa, as described in the figure here. And I apologize for this rather dichotomous approach to gender. Second, because of the swapping process, post selection was not random, but rather relied on cooperation and consent of relevant Little Big Science team members. However, the rest of the design was the same. Going backwards from 2018, which is when we started the study, we collected all posts that met this criteria. They had only a single author, and we only selected story style posts that included a substantial amount of text. In study 2, we received the post list from Little Big Science, and thus, as I said, the sample was not randomly selected. Extraction of comments in the 2 studies was done using different platforms because of changes to privacy and access policies on Facebook. But all comments to selected posts were extracted into an Excel file. We then excluded comments that contained only name tags or emojis, meaning that they did not have any text. These are the post characteristics we analyzed for both studies, and we did not find that they had any significant effect on the differences in commenting patterns, so I will not discuss this moreover, in addition. The same codebook was used for both studies. Each comment was coded twice, for relevance and for sentiment. An example will follow shortly. This is the codebook for the comments. You can see in the table the different categories of each code. Relevance is a code that refers to the relevance of the comment to the post, and the second code is the sentiment of the comment towards the post subject or post author. On the right side of the table, you see the percentages for each category. For study 1, S1, and for study 2, S2. Now let me show you an example. My example is from a post about hormones in milk. The title was "Hormones in Milk, Is It Really Bad?" However, the attached image seen here was of Arnold Schwarzenegger drinking beer with his infamous quote, "Milk is for babies. When you grow, you need to drink beer." So what type of comments did they receive? The first comment I will show you is an example for a relevant yet hostile comment in regards to the post itself. And it says, "Most redundant text I've ever read," without any added value. Next, you see an example of a comment that is marginally relevant and also coded as giving advice, since it contains a suggestion for the post author. I would add about nutritional benefits, such as CLA and mainly rumenic acid. The last comment in my example is an irrelevant comment, since it is not even related to the post or the title, but only to the image of Arnold Schwarzenegger, hitchhiking on the image to write a comment that has nothing to do with the post, but only with the writer. So if I drink a bottle or a can of beer almost every day in the afternoon, usually Duval, Castile, Guinness, I am doing a wise thing. So what did we find in our study? First of all, we found significant difference in the category of relevance for study 1. Females received more irrelevant comments and less marginally and directly relevant comments. However, in study 2, we did not find any significant differences in this code. Next, we will look more carefully at the sentiment code for the categories that did have significant differences. In study 1, our findings indicated that females received more positive comments. However, in study 2, when we swapped the genders, our findings were opposites. Posts published by males received more positive comments. For the neutral comments that are actually good since they are usually follow-up questions for the post, females received less neutral comments, and this final finding is consistent in both studies. For the hostile category, again, findings in both studies are the same. Females received more hostile comments, either as authors in study 1 or publishers in study 2. And for the last category, giving advice, female authors in study 1 and female publishers in study 2 received more giving advice comments. So to sum our findings in one slide and one sentence, we saw that when posts were published under a female name, both in study 1 when she's also the author and in study 2 when she's not, they received more hostile and giving advice comments, but less neutral comments. The findings regarding positive comments are not conclusive, and this category may be more susceptible to author writing styles. So what is the significance of our findings and what are the implications for science educators? I would like to start by highlighting that social networks are prominent sources of information, and they influence how people, and especially teenagers, perceive issues. So studying what types of discourses and engagement happens there is important. More importantly, investigating how gender stereotypes are reinforced or challenged in social media contributes to our understanding of them. And they are changing. One of the more current forms is what I discussed in our introduction, mansplaining, which is manifested in our findings in our category giving advice. This form of hidden sexism is when a man gives advice to a woman on how to do something better, when clearly the woman is more qualified. So why is this important for us as science educators? Gender stereotypes are often implicit in our work, and we need to be aware of how they operate in society so that we are better equipped to counteract them in our classrooms. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your questions in our live session.